What's up, Everyday Blades? Man, so we got one of the two new knives that Microtech has recently dropped. This one is the MSI. Very cool knife. The other one is the Stitch Ramlock. That one will be here Monday, and we'll do a video on it. So let's get into it. My very first impressions, when I saw the one video, I believe, or two videos that were up when I first saw this thing, I knew I would like it. I knew from the beginning. I knew, just like when I saw this, I knew I would like it. I knew I would be a fan. Of course, that doesn't tell you the whole story until you get it in hand, right? I can tell you I'm not disappointed at all. Everything I've seen or heard about the knife is great. It's built very well. I mean, it's Microtech. That's to be expected. The action was a little stiff when I got it, which is normal for a new knife. I loosened up the pivot just a hair, and I put some Magic Gunny Glide juice in there. And I think Gunny Glide will free up just about anything, because that stuff's amazing. So now it flies right out there. Drops shut. Now they say you can do this with one finger. You can, but it's not very comfortable because that jimping is a little bit aggressive to do that. But it's fine with two. And you can do it just like you can do it with a Benchmade axis lock. Same thing. Of course, this is much better. The quality, it's got a titanium backspacer. Very nice pocket clip. Has nice rise, nice room for the seam in the pants. So it has it does not work like the axis lock does. It's kind of similar to the axis lock on the Anthem, where it has the coil over spring in the back, and it works very well. And that's much better than that spring they had in there, that little coil spring. That's not great. They break a lot. Not a lot, but enough to talk about. And of course, being a Microtech, it came very sharp. I love the polished stonewash finish on the blade. You know, the opening holes, thumb opening holes, are my favorite deployment on a knife. So that's one of the main things that attracted it to me, along with the ram lock. Let's see here. So we got G10 show side, G10 springs, what would be spring side. They have talked about a plastic version coming out of this, a durable plastic that will be less expensive. This knife is about $250 retail. So they talked about maybe that another, not Microtech, but another reviewer talked about maybe that plastic version being $199-ish. Then of course I'm sure there'll be Morphe owned variations, which will be very expensive, but they'll have super premium materials. I'm hoping they have a Microtech version that has the carbon fiber, because that's what I want. Because though it's not heavy, I definitely wouldn't call it heavy. It feels like it should weigh, right, for the type of knife that it is. Let's check it out. 5 exactly on the nose, 5 ounces. So though it feels like it should weigh, and it's definitely not a problem, I would like for it to be a little bit lighter, and I think carbon fiber would pull that off and make it a little bit more user-friendly, though it's not an issue now. Has a huge, I believe it's like a T20 and like T10s on the side. Very large hardware, love that. Actually, we can check that real quick, maybe. No, don't have my hardware with me, but anyway, you're just going to take my word for it. It's really large hardware. When I went to bust the pivot screw apart, it was very tight. It must have had some significant amount of blue Loctite on it, because it took some wrenching on it to get it to bust loose. So the centering on mine is off just a hair, but it's so minimal. It doesn't affect anything. I'm definitely not going to worry about it. I'm not selling this knife. So the steel is M390 MK. It's a steel that is a version of Crucible's M390, specifically tailored to Microtech specs. No, I don't know if that's heat treat or whatever. I'm sure it's the heat treat. They're not going to change the specs of the metal, so I'm sure they have their heat treat desires. If they wanted a little M390 heat treat a little bit tougher or a little bit where to hold a little bit more edge retention. So anyway, very, very nice knife. Very good design. They hit it out the park. They just did a great job. I'm a big Microtech fan. I mean, I've always been a Microtech fan from day one. Even though most of their stuff is out the front, I'm not a fan of out the front knives. I still think they're kind of cool. I just don't like to own them. But the other knives they make, I'm just a huge fan of. The Marfione stuff, I have the Marfione Borka collaborations. Those knives are awesome. They just don't get any cooler. Very pricey. I mean, they're definitely the Rolex of the knife world. But Tony Marfione's presentation is second to none. He does a great job. So these are hardened steel liners. Like I said, titanium backspacer. I don't know if the hardware is titanium or steel. It appears to be steel. I hope it's steel. I like steel hardware over titanium hardware. I've snapped the head off a titanium bolt before with very little effort. So this, this doesn't, you're not going to get a drop shutty action with this unless you have the the ram lock deployed. So even when you open it, if you stop it, it'll stay there because it has a lot of surface to drag on all the way. But that's fine because when you go to open it, all you can do is hold it down for 1 second and the knife drops. It feels really good in hand. There are no hot spots. The clip is in the perfect spot to tuck into the seam of your hands. And when you grab it really tightly, I don't see anything that stands out. I don't feel anything that stands out. The opening hole, man, I just love that it's so perfect. You can flick it one thumb. The way I usually deploy a knife like this is start with 2 and flip with 1. I've tried to, I can almost do that, Spidey flick it, but it's quite a bit of resistance from the ram lock to be doing that. So let's check some specs on it real quick. Oh, there it is. Alright, so the blade is right at 4 inches. Handle scale is 4 7/8. Let's look at it up against a couple of traditional knives. This is the Benchmade Griptilian. And this is the Para 3, Spyderco Para 3. Excuse me. And got to put it up against this because this is its brother, the Anthem. Or the Anox, I'm sorry. Anthem. Microtech and Anox. So, there she is, boys. Questions, does she get my recommendation? 100%. They killed it. They did a great job. I like it. It's going to stay in my collection. Value, $250? Hell yes. That's a killer price for this knife. There's a lot in this knife. A lot of function, a lot of value for $250. 100%. Overall, it gets 2 thumbs up for me. It's a winner. Guys, thanks for watching. God bless you and your families. Say a prayer for our country. Good night.